Hey, what is up, Headhunters, executive recruiters, search for owners? This is Dave Stephen Patterson. You may know me as DSP. This is Headhunters Live, and right over here we have my brother from another mother, Neil Lebovitz. Right over here we have the most beautiful man in recruitment today, Chris Wessel, and today we have Joshua William May, Josh May, on the call. I'm excited, guys. How are you?
Well, he's kind of getting a little competition for best hair. I'm a little concerned that he's going to come in and his main is going to like put my whole thing just I don't know. But I feel like we now have appeal across a number of demographics because you got Neil's got a look. Some of them like the tough burly DSP look. Some of them like
I thought you were referring to me.
And now we got somebody who's got a carefully coiffed like long hair and stuff. And I don't know, maybe he just is at his desk all the time and doesn't ever get up, and that's why it just keeps getting longer. Maybe because he's just putting in the hours. I don't know how he does it.
I do find it pretty funny when we talk about Neil's attractiveness or not, and you say, "Well, he has a look."
I know. Why don't you just say it? New York Jew look or Howie Mandel? I don't know. It's one of the two.
Speaking of which, Josh has said that he had to go to New Jersey for a trip, and he was thinking about someone said he should cut his hair shorter or whatever. And then, like, my biggest concern was like, why do you have to go to New Jersey? Like, do you have to serve out a sentence? Like, what did you do wrong? And then Neil got all upset because I think I may have upset his people. I don't know, but that I mean Jersey people.
I don't know why you would say that, Christian. But let's say Chris, David, and I behind the scenes, Chris is the most handsome of the three of us. Okay, let's call it what it is. And in fact, not even a distant competition, right? He's just this ridiculously chiseled man. And anytime he comes on, David and I deflate. I don't know how to explain it, right, David? How would you like? And Chris is trying to make nice, like, well, we each appeal to somebody.
Actually, I inflate like a puffer fish because I'm trying to intimidate him and have him see me as an alpha. That's my survival strategy.
He's really, if you've ever met DSP in person, he's about 36 inches tall. So like he's stocky.
Yeah, Burger Burger.
So
I'm gonna get muted. I gotta be careful.
So today we have Joshua William May on the call. We're gonna bring him on in just a few minutes. By the way, sorry for being late, guys. We actually had an aborted first try going live, but now we should be good to go. So Josh May, he's one of the best contributors in the HERC, the Headhunter and Executive Recruiter community. He's one of the original members. I've known him for 7 years, I guess, a long time. And great guy. He always posts in the group about just tips and tricks about winning clients, how not to get bent over by clients, as he puts it, about getting exclusive work, engaged work, retained work. He's one of the best contributors in the HERC, and I'm really, really excited to have him on. So before I do that, we're going to bring him on in about 10 seconds. If you guys are watching live, please comment live down below so we know you can hear us. If you have any questions for Josh, put them down below as well. And if you're watching the replay, please comment replay. We want to see who's watching. And if you like the show, if you enjoy it, give us a like, give us a share. If everybody watching the show shared the show, we would be huge overnight. So we appreciate you. That said, let's bring on the man of the hour, Mr. Joshua William May. Let's do one of... for today's show, let's actually do one of these things. No, let's not do that. Let's do that. There we go.
Howdy.
A little bit different today. What's
You're
up,
like
Josh?
Sir Mix-a-Lot. You're like a wizard on that keyboard of video.
I know, right? Great. Hey, Josh. So we're really excited to have you on board, man. You're actually one of my favorite people here in the group. But who are you? Like, what do you do? Like, what's your story? Introduce the audience to yourself.
Oh gosh, what is my story? My story is very simple. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was in college getting my degree in professional writing and technical writing, and I chose that because I'm a really good writer. It turns out I'm a creative writer, not a technical writer. Don't enjoy writing safety manuals and how-to manuals. And while I graduated, I had to ask myself, what do I want to do for a living? And back in the day, Craigslist was still around, and I saw a job ad for a recruiter. Third-party recruiter was recruiting me for a third-party recruiting company. And she told me to do a lot of homework and figure out if this is a career I wanted to do. So who am I? I realized I wanted to be a recruiter because I really like helping people. And so I did the research, and I was like, yeah, I want to become a recruiter. You know, I every day I just try to help anyone I can. Lead with a circuit chart, really.
You know, Josh,
but
it's not
actually,
very
he's-
often
I
you hear
think he's-
about. Well, I was gonna say, it's not often you hear about somebody getting into business through Craigslist.
I heard it was through
It's not very-
Backpage. Actually, I think he's just trying to soften the story. I think it was actually on Backpage.
Yeah,
But now
my
you got
something else
question,
on
Josh,
Backpage.
is why, if it was a recruiter interview on Craigslist, did they ask you, this woman, to show up at that hotel in a bathing suit? That strikes me as weird. I'm just saying that's a flag, you know?
Sex
Rick,
sells.
That's
Chris,
how it
how
was
do you know?
back then.
How do you know what Backpage is? How do you
What?
know what Backpage is, sir?
How to what? What?
We're
How do
so
you know what
bad.
Josh, how
Backpage
you doing?
is?
What is Backpage? I really don't know.
There was
So
a,
I'm
it
going to
was
be
a-
honest with you, Josh. None of us, including the audience, heard anything you said after Craigslist. We were all dying to explode with our comments. Hey,
I
can you
apologize
turn
for my
around, by the
crappy
way?
internet connection here.
What category was it
Josh,
under?
I need to
What?
see this hair. Wait, let him do a flip first, just so before we start. Show him what's going on back there. You got that Kurt Cobain thing. We love the hair. There.
Oh, my
Show
hair?
Show your mane, brother. Yeah, show the back too. There you go. Like that.
Yeah, I might
That's right.
see that the topic of hair came up, audience, earlier because Chris really intimidated me whenever he jumped on. I'm like, holy crap, someone has better hair than me. So I was really nervous.
That's right. And that's where we got into the green room discussion of Chris being
Well,
so good looking and sets us. And then Chris tried to make up, well, no, you appeal to a certain demo. And I'm like, oh my God. Like,
Speaking
Well,
of,
Chris made a theory on how it
Kurt
happened.
Cobain.
And his theory of how my hair happened is actually 100% right. My first 6 months in my business, I literally did not leave my house. I was on the phone all the time. I was recruiting, working. One day
when I
I
first met you, you had that long ponytail. It was super
Oh yeah,
great.
yeah. Way back
Yeah,
then, I was real hippie back then. But no, I look up 6 months later, and I have a beard. I've never been able to grow a beard in my life. It's never gone away since. And my hair was long. I was like, this is kind of nice. So
You know, so speaking of Kurt Cobain, he was a great professional musician. He was a lousy amateur painter.
oh, jeez.
Sorry.
Hey, but don't you have a Kurt Cobain joke?
I have plenty. What color was Kurt Cobain's eyes? Blue. One blue this way, one blue that way.
Oh, God.
I got that sound like Kurt Cobain joke. Anyway,
Oh, my God.
that's it, Josh. Well, all right, Josh. Let's talk about one thing I want to talk about is actually your journey, especially around the COOF, you know, the big lockdowns. I know you had to make some big pivots in your business, and I know that a lot of people right now are looking at their industries maybe that are flat or getting soft, and they're a little bit worried and wondering if they need to pivot or what they need to do. So walk us through that, because you have a pretty interesting story about that, about how you came to where you are right now.
okay, so I work in oil and gas and energy. It's my core niche. And if anyone knows anything about that industry, it's up and down because of government regulations and elections, and you never know. So I was going through a down period, and I'm coming back out of it before 2020, just crawling my way to the top. And I think I'm over the hill. I'm going to shoot for the stars, and I'm having $100,000 a month come up my way with March of 2020. But unfortunately, the past 3 to 4 months of work that I had done was all for naught because no one got to start because the economy shut down. Not only does the economy shut down, oil for the first time in my life is in the negatives. I mean, people are being paid to take their oil off their hands.
I remember that, yeah.
And, you know, what do I work in? Oil and gas. So ironically, that Monday, the economy shut down was also the first time in my life I ever got a retainer. So that day I went into freak out mode, called some people, and I got a retainer for a completely new niche in financial planning. How did I end up in financial planning? I just looked at my own personal network to figure out who I can call and where I can call to pick up a job order somewhere, somehow get some cash in because I needed the cash. And I took that order and I just kept, and so my focus became financial planning for a period of time. And, but I always kept one foot in a dead market, being oil and gas, because when it comes back, who are they going to call? One of the only players left standing. So that's always been my strategy. I've had to pivot a lot over the years because I work in oil and gas. I've been doing it since 2012. But each time you keep one foot in the dead market and the other foot in a market.
How do you keep a dead foot in? I mean, how do you keep a foot in the dead market? How?
Rotating phone calls every 3 months to key hiring managers and candidates.
Got it. Just call frequency presence kind of thing. Got it.
Yeah.
Are you working orders with them, right? Or you don't work them because the odds of filling them, like, what do you, like, you just stay warm and planning?
If I get orders and I take them, I have a very high chance of filling them within my niche, contingency or otherwise. But I only take the orders that I know I can fill. To answer your question, it depends. But, you know, for the most part, I've always been able to bill 6 figures in a dead market. But, you know, in that dead niche. But I'm very picky about the roles I do work because they will waste your time. Yes. But whenever you're calling your clients or your candidates, you got to always call and provide them value. So what's the value to the clients? Talking about what's going on in the market. Maybe, you know, there's some hot candidates in the market, or maybe things are changing and their competitors are doing things. What's the value to candidates? Again, talking about what's going on in the market, what you see similar people to them are doing that to advance their careers because they've all been laid off and now everyone's just scrambling. Well, here's how I've seen other people succeed. You may not get them jobs, but you're helping them out. In the future, that will come back and pay you tenfold. And
all of that's getting you information with every single phone call that just feeds into the next calls. That's where all of that comes. So every one of those calls is adding to that knowledge.
The only objective into anything in this career is information. Information is power. So that's all we're trying to do is we're trying to collect info and figure out how to use it. So yes, you know, whether you're trying to get a candidate for a job, okay, if I can't get you for this job, what info can I collect from you? Same for the client.
Yeah. In fact, when I first got into this business, you know, and this is back before we really used a lot of email. I mean, we're just dialing the phone back in 2000, and you know, no LinkedIn at that point. And so the only way you got names was either through referral or through rusing, let's say like a front desk clerk to get names of people, you know, stuff like that, like the old school recruiting. And the very first lesson I was told is that if you want to build relationships, you can't just always call and say, if you need anybody, I can help. Anybody, I can help. Anybody, I can help. You actually have to add value. Networking is our stock and trade or information or however you want to put it. And I fact heard this from Jeff K. He said something, I forget exactly how he put it, but he said, as a recruiter, the information that you have is so valuable. You can go to McKinsey and Company, spend $250,000 on a 3-month study, and they, you know, and they'll give you a leather-bound book with charts and graphs, blah, 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 or talk to me for 15 minutes. I'll give you the real deal because I talk to every candidate. I know who's hiring, who's firing, who's laying off, who has projects, who doesn't have projects. I know the scuttlebutt. I'd love to hear what's going on with you. And I think a lot of recruiters in these days of LinkedIn kind of forget that. Mm-hmm. They really do. It's more transactional, right? But it's that conversation that you have where you share that information and you help and you give value to them and help them, whether it be their own career or whatever it is, that builds that's the seed of that relationship. And they may do business with you a year later, 2 years later, or whatever. I think that's a really important lesson for people to learn.
Information has gotten me retainers. It's, you know, everything. Information is power. You know.
So Josh, is it safe to say, so you wanted to expand your niche for sure, which is huge because all the trainers, all of us have talked about the importance of doing that. And especially in an industry that gets decimated like construction. And when that was bad in the last recession, oil and gas, you name it, mortgages, right? During the shutdown. So you got into financial planning, which is the way it was by accident, kind of the first one, wasn't it, Josh? Mm-hmm. And then you went where the market told you and where your interest was and where you can leverage. It was by accident, or not by accident because you leveraged the people, but tell them about that. You didn't seek out financial planning. How'd that niche come about? So, you know, I have always been a very old school building a niche kind of guy, which is NPC marketing. Okay. I love to skill market candidates because they're rejecting the candidate and not me whenever I do get ultimately rejected. So whenever the industry crashed, I had nothing. So I thought to myself, what are the other trainers before me? What do they say? Well, they say your personal contacts can be a potential business, client leads. So I just looked at all my personal contacts. I started making calls to hiring authorities or people that were in positions to where they can maybe give me a lead to help them find candidates. And I got lucky, quite frankly. I mean, I did it on the same day that I lost
almost 6 figures in billings because they didn't get to start. And I collect a $5,000 retainer for a front desk admin receptionist, by the way. Don't ask me how. They didn't ultimately never even build it because they ended up hiring the financial advisor that they were going to be. It's a long story. But ultimately, I got lucky in finding that financial advisor niche. And it happened to be one of the only industries during 2020 that was going to be going up because what's happening, the economy's shutting down. So the retirement, 401k, financial planning, investments, those are all expanding. I got now, if I wouldn't have done that, I would have kept making calls and probably ended up in a CPA tax firm or something like that because everyone always needs taxes. But what I'm trying to say is on any of our desks, there's so much value with the candidates that you have, the references they have that you got to check, the people that you know in your network. As long as you just stay focused and pick a niche, you can make it. You just got to pick one area and geographical location at the same time, in my opinion.
Excellent. So with that, so looking back at that, right? So and I know right now you're not doing that niche. I think you're in IT and engineering, if I remember correctly, or do more technical roles.
Yeah, engineering. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I know that for people who are pivoting like that, you talk about keeping one foot in a dead niche because when it comes back, you'll be the one there, pick up the pieces. But what other cautionary tales can you tell us about pivoting like that? Because I know pivoting isn't just as simple as pivoting, right? Because you do lose some momentum, the momentum that you had in other industries. So what do you think some of the big mistakes other people make when they do move to a new industry like that, or try to pivot beyond just not staying in touch with their own network?
Okay. Well, I'm a big believer in being geographically focused. You can't just say, I'm going to go and recruit nurses or doctors or whatever. You have to say, I'm going to recruit tax accountants in Miami, Florida. And I'm going to only call the tax firms. And I'm not going to recruit accountants for corporate clients, right? Because everyone's going after those. Like, you have to be very, very focused, whatever niche you're picking. You pick one niche and you focus that geography, you focus those roles, and you get to know everyone in that market. And you don't give up until you make a placement. That's the thing. A lot of people end up stopping along the way. Rejection is not easy, but it gets easier as time goes on. So just keep dialing, keep making phone calls. It is a numbers game. When it comes down to it, the recruiting is planting a lot of seeds and nurturing those seeds. Then it's fishing, and you reel those fish in. And sometimes those fish aren't big enough, or they're not ready to go out in the market. You throw them back in the sea. But one day you reel those fish in, and you get you win jackpot. I also used to look at this job. I'm sorry, getting tongue tied. I used to look at this job as gambling. Put a coin in a coin slot. Enough times you're going to hit jackpot. So I look at it now like planting seeds, fishing, and then eventually you win.
All right, so let's talk about as you put it in the green room. So in the green room, you were talking about about the reason why you give advice in the HERC, which we really appreciate that you do this, is because you don't want recruiters to be, I think, as you put it, bent over by their clients. Mm-hmm. Let's dive into that, because I think right now in this space, I think a lot of recruiters are just thankful to get the business. Mm-hmm. And you're thankful to get the business. You're giving the client all the power, and that's obviously, as we all know, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
Right. So dive into that. So what did you put it like that? Like recruiters getting bent over by clients? Because that's a pretty harsh way to say it.
Look, there are plenty of clients out there who will bend you over backwards and take advantage of you. And the thing is do you want to work for those clients? Do you want to fight them and try and make them see the value in you? Or do you want to move on and find the clients that are going to pay you and treat you like a valued partner? So I'm very clear with my clients whenever I'm talking with them that you're not paying me to give them new names. You're not paying me to give you a person. You're paying me for the process. You're paying me to get an end result of a candidate starting. Whether that person used to be someone that worked there, whether that person was your brother-in-law, whether that person is someone that applied to that role before, whether that person rejected a job from y'all before. the list can go on. These are all examples of how the candidates I've gotten paid for from my clients, because in the end, I'm very clear that you're not paying me but to work a process to find the best candidate in the market to get the job done. So I make them aware. I make them realize that this is a profession. We are real humans. We're trying to do a job. Our job is to find the candidates in the market and to work a process to get you intel at the worst case scenario. Once they put that into their head and they can move on to other things that are their priority, they will pay you for any candidate. You might have to argue with them about previous submitted candidates, but even then, that's such a rare occurrence. You tell them that, hey, the candidates will sign a right to represent. They usually get over that really quick. Once the candidates sign that right to represent, and they're going to say that you can represent them. All I'm trying to say is all the ifs, ands, or buts, like I'm worried about credits on submittals. I'm worried about getting paid on time. I'm worried about money back guarantees. You have to break it down and explain to the client that all the risk is not going to be in my corner. I'm not going to agree to a money back guarantee. A replacement guarantee, sure. There's a variety of examples I can give you. I'm sorry, I can talk on and on, but for me,
I'll go for it.
All I try to get at is that, but for whose efforts is this hire being made? If they respect the but for rule, work with them. If they don't, move on.
And as long as if you don't treat yourself like a commodity, which a lot of recruiters do, and there's a reason a lot of, I wouldn't even call them clients, but prospective clients treat us this way. It's because a lot of us treat ourselves this way, right? Like we just chuck some resume and you're like, what do you think of this one? What do you think of this one? So when we tie our value strictly to the finding of an individual, as opposed to the working of a process, helping them select the right person, maybe in some cases even validating that this is the correct hire, and we frame it away like when I haven't done a money back guarantee in, I don't know, 10 plus years. And I know that that's good for me, but as long as I can express to the client why it's good for them, then they're like, oh yeah, it makes sense. Cause I'll say what's more important, this role filled or your money back, right? Like you're going to pay me $20,000, $25,000 to do this. You need this engineering manager or whatever, does that, at the end of the day, does that fix the problem? If I just,
as an aside, I just have to say and I haven't been doing recruiting for years, but how on earth did they expect a refund back? Like, you think we're more responsible than you? You picked them. I brought them to you. You interviewed them. You hired them. How am I responsible for that?
My guarantee specifies that if they are released for cause, right? That's when I'll do it. It doesn't include if they quit. And I had a CEO ask me one time, they were like, well, what if, what about if they quit? What if they get a month in and then they leave, they find something better? And I'm like, well, I mean, that's on you.
My
that's
job
the
is
person.
I did it. Complete.
Yeah,
it's over.
Right. And I mean, at that point, the retention is really around, it's more of like a courtesy to do a replacement. But at the end of the day, you were also involved. I didn't just pick a person, drop them in front of you, and you hired them on the spot. This wasn't a go to work or whatever, if any of us remember those. But you picked this person, a bunch of you met with them, you applied your own measures to deciding if this is a good fit. As a courtesy, if they get let go and they flame out in a couple of months or whatever, I'll find you somebody new. I want to preserve the relationship, etc. But if a month in somebody quits because you're a fucking asshole, or
I would even say, look, you would want me still around in that scenario, so I can call that candidate, find out the real story of why they really quit. In fact, I mean, I use that with my clients all the time. Like, hey, you want me to call the people that quit you and find out the real story. So,
all right. So it's all well and good, I think, in terms of make sure you find clients that respect you, right, and that they work your process and you're selling the process. However, at the end of the day, I know that I know that before I became smooth with the ladies, and as much as my mama said that I was a catch and any lady will be lucky to have me, at the end of the day, 20-year-old DSP couldn't get a date. So I didn't have a chance to even show how great I was until until I proved my smoothness score, if you will, right? So that said, for these recruiters that are having trouble even getting in front of clients or
how to pick up the
differentiating
clients
themselves,
by DSP.
how do you do that? Like, how do you get yourself in a position to be able to have those conversations in the first place?
So I'm a big believer in NPC skill marketing, a most placeable candidate. Now you can have multiple most placeable candidates in your database, okay? But whatever types of jobs you recruit for each type of job, you have one NPC for each one. Have one ready to go at all times. So in my case, I have an electrical engineer, a chemical engineer, a mechanical engineer, project manager, project engineer, director of engineering manager, usually in my back pocket at all times for various different subsectors within my market. So whenever I'm making a skill market call, I have candidates that I can just quickly go to and start, pitching them. Because in the end, whenever I'm skill marketing candidates and I get rejected, they're not rejecting me, they're rejecting those candidates. So whenever I call them back again in the future with another candidate, who are they rejecting again? That new candidate, not me. Put a fish in front of them enough times, they'll take the bait. So they'll call you back.
I'm sorry, keep going, buddy.
No, they'll call you back whenever they have a need. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying on the skill market, I was going to ask the whole group because it just hit me. Skill marketing, NPCing, it's debatable by so many people. There's so many shows on it. I've yet to meet anyone billing $500,000 plus that doesn't believe in skill marketing. Have anyone on our show? I'm just asking, do you know anybody? Like, I think
now I will say this. So for me, I come from the IT world, specifically SAP, but in IT, for me, I never liked NPCs originally because I didn't want to be lumped in with all the body shops, because in IT, there's a lot of body shops and you kind of get lumped into that. But it's when I started NPCing leaders. So when I started NPCing like an SAP director or VP of IT, it's a big demonstration of your value. Everybody says I find the best people. Great. We all do. I have the best network. Great. We all do. Like, we all say the same things, but at the end of the day, you can say it all day long where you can show it in the quality of candidates that you have. And what I realized is that when I used to poo-poo NPCs because I was trying to NPC like a developer, and it just in the IT space is kind of tough because everybody was doing that. But when I started NPCing like an SAP director, for example, or like a high level person, rarely would people market that. And then it always became very easy for them to say, well, we don't need somebody like that, but we do need a solution architect.
Conversation starter.
And yeah, it's a great conversation starter. It's a demonstration of your higher value. It's like go back to dating. I can talk all day long about my great job, my great car, my great life, and I'm a great guy, or I can show it through my actions. And what's more powerful, showing it through your actions.
So Neil, and to your point about like, there's a lot of big billers you talk to that have done so. That's been part of their strategy, and I think it's because it's something a lot of people, like any strategy, business development strategy, people can do wrong or do well, right? And I think that the commonality is probably, and I'm speculating, but the commonality is probably that those people figured out how to do it well in a focused way that showed like not only like value, but also, like Josh was saying, like market knowledge. And because you could have a candidate, you know what I mean? Like, you could have just, if this person is looking, and then you could have, that could be part of, it's all on how you approach it. Like, you go back to, like, we would talk with like Steve Finkel and other people, we were talking about like the kind of the art of the conversation and the way that we frame things and the order that we talk about things and all that. Like, there's so many different ways to go about it. And I feel like the people who are billing a lot all mention it because it's a component and they've figured out how to do it well. It's not a big part of my strategy. I would say I do it periodically. It's usually because of byproducts of searches I did. I'm not knocking it. It just isn't something I
was talking about
big numbers, but it's a piece of it.
Not you.
The objective of the NPC campaign is not to necessarily get that candidate a job at that client, but to use them to get your foot in the door because you have more authority being in their market in order to, like David said, get potentially other job orders, because that's usually what happens.
Well, look at your recruiting campaigns. If you look at just email, right? So 1,000 biz dev emails and 1,000 recruiting emails. Your recruiting campaign will have a way higher response rate because you've got something in hand that you're recruiting on, versus on the biz dev side, you're saying, I have to get this great service and I'm fantastic, but you're selling this nebulous sort of service versus you've got a job at hand. And I think the same applies for NPCs. Like, they're more responsive to NPC marketing because you got something in hand. It's not like this nebulous service, right?
Well, and if you know how many spam emails do you get where there's
God.
somebody pitching a bunch of people and there's this grid of candidates and it's, hey, we've got these great and I'll see LinkedIn posts from like recruiters I know that'll do this. They're like, hey, we're representing these types of people right now: a project engineer and a nurse and a salesperson and a and it's just like, it's like, who is this targeted to? It's garbage. Like that's doing it poorly. But if you reach out to someone in the construction industry, for example, because maybe that's one of your spaces, and you reach out and you're like, I have a project executive in your geography who's open to making a move. Here's just a couple sentences. And I don't send resumes when I do it because people don't want me sending their shit all around. Like I'm going to describe them in a few sentences, and everybody's got a different style with that. Like I have a project executive in this region in the construction industry, and like not only that, in your area of construction, because I know something about what I'm talking about. And is this somebody to be interested in having a conversation with? They're looking to make their next move. That is probably going to get some responses because that is a targeted message that demonstrates some market knowledge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think also for me, for a training moment, what I would train people on MVPs is when you get this candidate that you talk to, you network with, you learn what walking money is, what a walking placement is. When you see that person, you know someone's going to spend 30 grand on them. That's when the light bulb has to go off. I'm going to make 30 grand off this person I just uncovered, and someone will pay it. When you have that and you love this you all know who they are. You love your MVP. You love your MPC. So the conviction, just that alone, the objection handling, the conviction as a salesperson, when you go and you got something meaty to be convicted over. Conviction's what sells. In all scripts, that's what they tell you in Sales 101. So you go into it and we say, oh, I don't have an opening. You got to meet them. You talk to them. What are you, nuts? So what that you did? You didn't make the offer yet. And like all that stuff that is real as a consultant, we get to do. Anyway, and then the rest, But oh my God, every reason I think to build it into your repertoire.
I would not be where I am today without conviction. I believe in what I'm selling, which is the people or the companies. I don't take on problem child.
So Josh, what I like about you, and I've always liked about you, is your sense of grit. You know, when you first, when you meet you, I think a lot of people realize kind of like all the shit that you went through. Excuse my French. In this business, and we all have some like war stories about that. So let me ask you this: what is your juiciest war story about? Maybe either what a candidate did to you, client did to you, or maybe coming up in the business, some hardships you have. But I know we all have those war stories. What's one of your juicy ones?
Gosh, there's so many. Okay, so one of the reasons why I don't work through HR only, or especially third-party HR. One time I was very new in the industry. I was skill marketing a candidate. And this was to a company that is Japanese speaking primarily, and this candidate speaks Japanese. So and they're plug and play for the client. Like they wouldn't want to hire this person because they speak the language and do exactly what they do. This HR person told me that I was only allowed to go through her, send it to her. And if the client decides that they don't want to hire the candidate, she can send that candidate to whoever she wants. And if someone else hires that person, they aren't responsible for a fee. And that was in our agreement. The agreement states you cannot submit our candidates to other people. And if you do, you owe us the money. So I guess what I'm trying to say is you have to be really careful about who you work with. If this HR person didn't look at me as some newbie 3 months in, I take advantage of this person. I'm going to get this candidate. I'm going to go make money with this person elsewhere. Then I could have lost a lot of money trying to submit a lot of candidates to that one company. Who I still recruit out up to this day because they still make bad third-party recruiting.
Or similar, Josh, it reminds me of all those scenarios, to your point, where a client says, oh, they were in my database. Sorry, you're not getting a fee. What are you talking about? That's not a partnership. So what? Right? But for your point, Josh. But for, right?
But for, and you have to also add all that contractual language into your agreements. So in my agreements, for instance, I state if you get a referral from my client, for my candidates in the interview process or afterwards, having not hired the person, and you hire those referrals, you owe me a fee.
I also have, that's a good one. I also have for the database one, my language is along the lines of, the such and such about the fee, said which is due regardless of whether the candidate is previously known to the organization.
Yeah.
Because I also had somebody who was like a VP level hire at a mid-sized company, so it was like a $30,000 fee, and like literally had someone say, "Oh yeah, I was planning on calling them. Like I already know them," and I'm like, "Okay, but I already talked to them, and you didn't already call them." And so like that's not how this is going to go. Now, did I ever do another hire with? I got paid. Did I know I was never going to work with that customer again, and were they never going to call me? But I was okay with that. But I'm like, that is no. Don't give me this. Forget about a database. It was literally like, oh yeah, I know him, and I was planning on calling him. Yeah.
No, there's a company out there in my industry that literally hires third-party recruiters or contract recruiters to literally go and update their database and keep their candidates updated every 6 months. So that way, whenever people like us submit them, they can claim credit. Like it's literally a strategy. And I know this because I've talked to them about it, the internal hires from management down to the actual recruiter. And also,
sorry, keep going. No, keep going. I was going to ask David a question when you're done. Keep going, Josh.
No. And then the other thing, I just thought of another war story where I've actually had to sue to get paid. This was a while ago. They hired my vice president of sales and operations from me, who worked for them for 4 months, brought in $32 million worth of business for them. And then they basically got rid of him because they took away some of his responsibilities that they promised, which was the operations part. They wanted him just to do sales. He wasn't going to do both. So they gave him a severance, and they told me after 4 months, they owed me money at 30 days. It was only a 90-day guarantee. They told me they wouldn't pay me. So, it took 9 months to get paid, and we didn't get paid the whole fee. But that company certainly has a reputation now, and that what it's spun off to become, I still don't work with because they're pretty, that they'll screw you over like that. So,
yeah, David, this is not a shameless plug for you, but I remember you had a program for MPC. I don't know if you still do it. It was a digital one. It was really cool, right? It was a way to really
called the Modern MPC campaign. Yeah, it's called the Modern MPC. Actually, it's not. Although it's not for sale at the moment. But I will be opening it back up here fairly soon. However, I will say this, and again, this will be a shameless plug. As many of you know, Neil, the boss Libovitz, he is the owner of Back Office Staffing Solutions. So for anybody that needs a back office staffing or solutions provider, payroll, if you want to dip into contract work, which I think everybody should be doing nowadays, go to backofficenow.com and sign up. In fact, I think that's a really cool app. So basically, if you want like a branded app that your contractors and your clients can use with your logo and your colors on, it looks really fancy. It looks like you spent a bunch of money developing this app. Actually, Neil spent the money, but you can get the credit. So
coming soon, the app coming soon.
Yeah, coming soon.
I've seen them. Where do they get your boot camps and wonderful other material? Just plug yourself. I'll give you a shameless plug.
Plug yourself.
Thank you. Yeah. So for anybody who wants a sales marketing system deployed in your practice, we have a 90-day ROI guarantee. You can go to realdsp.me/build, and we'll build the entire thing for you in 30 days. And like I said, we have a 90-day guarantee. And one last thing before I get back to Josh, for anybody that is interested in joining an off Facebook group, for those folks who like free speech, don't like to be censored, don't like big text on their data, but still want a community of recruiters, join the Headhunters Syndicate. You can go to realdsp.me/syndicate. You can also get there by going to just the URL, the headhunters.io. Free to join, free speech reigns, and we'll love to see you there. All right, so
if you're looking to hire a leader for, oh wait, never mind. I'm not plugging myself.
Hey, David, your personal site, your personal link is the Headhunters, and our group show is the Headhunters Live. We're going to sue you. Can we send out a cease and desist to Digital Headhunter as a group? How dare you?
If he sends us a maybe we'll lay off.
Wow.
I remember
Wow.
I remember your Headhunters and Boxers days. I thought I had to wear boxers to be on this show or something.
No, we wear boxers. I'm not even wearing pants right now. I'm free balling.
But interesting trivia. The original show was Headhunters and Boxers talking smack. We did well over 100 episodes. And literally the first 2 episodes or so, David and I bought a whole slew of boxers and we wore them the first couple episodes and we would show them. and then we just stopped, right, David? But it's true.
Yeah, it
And
was a
now
gimmick.
Neil stands up in the green room and it gets awkward. He's like, hang on, I got to move my camera. And we're like, I'm not going to tell you what he's wearing.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, I want to go into one more line of questioning before we start wrapping here. For other folks watching this, and again, I think the reason why we got some excitement when I announced you for the show, because a lot of people like what you have to say. You're super friendly, you're super giving, and first, so from us and everybody else in HERC, we really appreciate it. For all those folks listening, what, if the folks that are kind of worried about this year, what is your best advice to give them as they are looking forward to the rest of the year? What should they do to have a great year despite the economic headwinds? Like, what's your advice?
First of all, don't spend more than you're making. I remember back in the day when I was deciding to buy a house, I went really poor to plan for the bad times. But pick a geography, pick a niche, pick something you somewhat enjoy talking about. You don't have to love it, but don't hate it. And do research, make a plan, and the key here is execute on your plan. If you're not making the phone calls, if you're not making the emails, if you're not doing reach outs on LinkedIn, your competitor is, and you will not make money. If you're all over the place, you will not make money. Pick one lane and stay in your lane. That's the biggest thing. And we're all salespeople here. We're all entrepreneurs, and we all see shiny objects. And we're like, oh, look, a squirrel, like a dog.
You see money everywhere, right? Yeah.
Yes. But find that, walking $30,000 NPC candidate, and usually if you got to pick a candidate, if you don't know what the NPC is, in my opinion, that's someone with good tenure, 4 years, ideally, with their employer, and a good skill set that someone that a company will want to hire, and they are reasonable in their expectations, and they have reasons they want to make a move beyond just money. Now, that just money equation has slightly changed, I would say, in the past few years with inflation. I mean, because half of our job, I think, is educating our clients on, hey, guys, inflation's real here, so let's come up with some more salary. But they got to have more reasons to want to make a move than money. Come on, guys. They'll end up taking that counter offer. That will happen. So pick your lane, make the calls, and don't give up. If you give up, then you won't make money. But if you just keep going, you will make money. So...
Well, some of the best recruiters I know, some of the richest recruiters I know, got started in the last recession back in 08, 09. I mean, it's the, you get really good and actually, Josh, I know you can attest this. You get really good when your back is against the wall. You got a gun to the head, and you've got to make something happen, and that's the time where you can get really good because because you have emotional leverage. Like I know from talking to you, and I remember that story that you told me from back in the lockdowns. I remember that. Mm-hmm. Your back has been against the wall a couple times in this business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also that's another thing too. Turn off social media. Turn off the news. Turn off get rid of cable if you can. Stop paying attention to what's going on.
Except for 1 o'clock on Thursdays. Don't turn off social media. Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Go ahead on that.
Yes. And watch the replays to take additional notes. But if you just stay focused and you just ignore everything around you, create your own reality. Wake up every day. It's all in the mindset too. I mean, do not think you're not going to do well today. Wake up every day. You're going to kill it. You keep going, and you will eventually, keep putting enough coins in that slot machine. You'll win jackpot. Keep making enough phone calls, enough emails, you'll get jackpot, and then you'll figure out how. Then you'll eventually you move to the blackjack table. You'll figure out how to play blackjack, and then you can start strategizing of how to grow and get better and better and better as a headhunter. So you can always know every year, no matter what, you can make 6 figures, 200, 250. It's just got to keep going. It's really
it's so important to put yourself in a position to succeed. I think a lot of people they're too afraid to show up to the dance. You know what I mean? And you gotta show up, even if you don't have a date, you gotta show up to the dance every single time. Show up to the dance, and make your calls, etc. I think a lot of people just don't put themselves in positions to succeed. And I also think that people sometimes when their backs are against the wall, they freeze. And I think that's a big one. because it's easy to do the doom scroll on Facebook and get lost in that for the next couple hours because you're it's a form of escapism in a lot of ways, and that's really dangerous.
What I do whenever I want to freeze is I end up calling my peers, counterparts, etc., to get motivation from you guys. It's like, feeling down, give someone a call. See, they're having the same issues, whatever, but you build each other up, hang up, bang out a few more phone calls.
The staying in your lane thing too, I think sometimes it's a shiny object syndrome that gets in the way of that, but also sometimes it's fear, right? Especially if you're less experienced. And I mean, I get, like, at one point, I was less focused, right? And there were stages of my 20 years of doing this that I wasn't as narrow in certain areas. And I can say with complete certainty, there was way more money when I was focused in certain lanes. But I can relate to, on some level, at some point in time, the fear of, like, what if I'm going down the wrong path, right? You know what I mean? And I think people don't always give themselves enough time to let it actually play out, right? They try a little bit of everything because they feel like what they're doing at that roulette table is putting it all on red or black. They're basically putting their money on red and black, and then they're, like, actually not even breaking even because they're pretty, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not giving enough. They're not letting the plants grow, right? So you're afraid sometimes to put a bunch of energy into a particular path that if you just stick to it for a bit, it'll work. But then you're like, well, I should hedge my bets. I should also work on this. I should also work on that. And immediately you're dividing your attention. Now, it's easier said than done, I get. But I do think that's a very real factor in people's heads, especially if they're newer to this and they don't have the confidence that comes from having seen some cycles.
Yes. I would agree. I mean, I started in 2011, so I don't know if that's, we were just coming out of the downturn from 2008 timeframe within the oil and gas side. And so I learned in a candidate's market, because there was jobs everywhere and you can get a candidate 7 different offers, literally. And I did that a few times. Not 7. He had 7. I got him 4. But if you stay in your lane and you learn all the information, you know what's best for the candidate. If you know why you're doing this, and for me, I'm doing this because I like to help people, then you'll always be able to do well in this industry. And you stay in your lane, you get the information you need, you can give good advice to everyone, and eventually you become known as the expert and people start listening to you. That's all you can do. But yeah, no, I'm a big believer in staying in your lane, and I've tried diversifying. I've been a generalist. Okay, I made $30,000 to $70,000 that year in being a journalist. I don't remember. It's just like I've tried it all. Okay, I've learned the best way to do it is to pick a lane and stay in the lane, and don't give up, because your competition will.
And I think you can have a couple lanes too. Like, you can diversify a little. Like, you could have a couple of related focuses. So don't have to put all your eggs in one basket, but you can't be all over the place either. And
right
they have
now,
to lend to each other.
Yeah, right now, for instance, I'm making time to strategically expand my niche, but it's also one that's going to hopefully cover me for whenever the next downturn in my niche happens naturally. But it's you can't just completely pivot. You have to be strategic about it. I'm a big believer this career can be done 4 hours a day if you really plan appropriately and make the calls appropriately. It's like a lifestyle career. So for me, it was like 4 hours in a dead market, 4 hours in a market I'm trying to make money in.
So there's a term, when I was thinking the whole time you were talking, and I love the shiny object analogy and all that stuff, but anything that's not in your lane that appears, there's a term for it. It's called fool's gold, right? And just stay away from fool's gold, right? It's fake. It's not real, right? And that's why I was thinking the whole time. I love the shiny object thing. And Josh, really great job. I think, thank you for all your work in the groups, because we talked about that in the green room. You're one of just a bunch of people. You just do it because you like to do it and you help people. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why I love this business, man. I love this. Well, that's it. That's it. It's time for us to start wrapping up here. Josh, I really appreciate you having you on the call. Again, I've known you for a long time, so it's a special treat to have you on because I've always enjoyed talking to you. So
yeah,
thank you very much, Josh. Really, really appreciate it. And for those somebody just asked if there's going to be a replay. Once the live ends, just refresh your page and you should be able to watch it from the beginning. So replay is no problem at all. Tune in next week. Next week we will have William Spangler, another great contributor to the group. And Josh, again, thank you very much, man. Really great having you on. So
Thank you.
all right, everybody. Peace out, everybody.